Good evening. Yeah, it's like 11 something at night. The house feels about as chilly as the outside right at the moment. But the sky is clear, thankfully. I come out so that the puppies can go potty, and yeah. My gate's kind of snowed into place right at the moment, so I can't close it all the way. Well, I'd say it stopped snowing, even though I can see stars. It's snowing. I've just been... I know there's a lot of other people out there with Asperger's and who are also on, spectrum that might be, high spectrum like myself, or might be a little lower that, they don't necessarily have a problem with talking, in the sense of being able to verbalize stuff, but communicating things can be difficult. And a lot of times we're met with family members and people that we care about, when we try to address things and try to talk about our feelings, things that are bothering us, stuff like that, with family, or even to the people that it's like, look, this is really bothering me, this, that, blah, 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 regardless of tone. Because a lot of times, you gonna come in, Pooh Bear? Because a lot of times when we're trying to communicate things, we're already stressed out because we're afraid that what we're saying isn't going to be understood. We're already stressed out because we're afraid of how people will react, because a lot of times people tend to dismiss. Or they look at, or their response is like, that's dumb. Or we're immediately met with a reaction. Somebody might hear for a little while, considering I think these days most people don't understand the difference between hearing and listening. Listening really does take effort. Hearing takes no effort. That means you can hear the noise in the background of the room, but you're not paying attention to it. When you're listening, you're paying attention to what your ears are listening to, what you're hearing. You're listening. You're paying attention to it. You can hear all the background noise. You're not paying attention to it. But when you're making somebody like myself constantly feel like we're a fucking problem every time we try to talk, it makes it that much harder every time we try to talk and communicate about something that's bugging and bothering us. So when we go to come to you, it's going to be that much harder. And it's going to be that much more intense for us. So if you're one of those people who are easily offended, who doesn't understand that when something's being spoken, it's not out of negative criticism or judgment or anything, but they assume it is, it makes it harder and harder to communicate. And then when they spend time trying to blame you that you're the problem, that all this stuff, then it turns into a big fucking argument. And it's like, it's really easy to take somebody who is on spectrum and fuck with their head. To intentionally meet a question with either a question or a complaint, or a whataboutism, which then is intended to create confusion, which then is intended to redirect the conversation and the subject to something else and off the subject that it was all about to begin with. And then they tend to easily make you look crazy and feel crazy. When you're trying to explain something to somebody and you're explaining to them that some of these things are this or that, like what you're doing is this, and the response is, that you sound like you sound like you're a doctor and this, that, and the other, that's a dismissal. That's a form of gaslighting. That's abuse. And people don't understand that. You're dismissing. You're minimalizing. You're trying to make the person sound like they're stupid. like they're trying to be arrogant when, how many of you out there who have dealt with an illness of any form, whether it's the flu or the cold, or you're dealing with some form of cancer, or a family member with cancer, or you're dealing with some sort of medical issue. So when somebody goes to ask you about it and you go to inform them, are you acting like a doctor, or are you relaying what you learned? So when somebody turns around and starts throwing that in your face, is that, when they're throwing it in your face, oh, you sound like a doctor. You're just trying to act like a doctor. It's like, no, if you actually took time to learn about this stuff too, if you actually went through it, you would have taken the time to learn about it. You would have ran away from it, tried to hide it, and just claim it. That's one of the ways of avoiding repeating the abuse, is to learn about what you went through. No different than, it's kind of a way of learning how you manage an illness. You learn about it. You gain knowledge about it so that you know what you need to do to deal with it the best you can. Whether you're dealing with a physical illness or a mental illness, it takes learning about it. Whether you're dealing with some form of abuse, it takes learning about it. If you're going to go out and be screaming shit, and yet you don't even know what it is, but you're starting to do it yourself, that's self-ignorance, and that's an avoidance problem. You know, that there is such a thing as called an avoidance personality disorder, which a lot of narcissists actually have, because they do anything and everything to avoid taking accountability or responsibility of anything. They tell you they do, but they continue to do what they do behind closed doors. They get more secretive about it. And their guilt starts to show through how they react to things and how they treat you. And when you call them on their shit, their immediate response is, well, if you didn't blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, this needs to stop. If you want somebody to be able to communicate with you, whether it's good or bad shit, and they're trying to communicate and be able to have some sort of adult type conversation, regardless of people's tones of voices, but being able to communicate back and forth logically without fucking constantly being met with whataboutisms and all this other bullshit, dismissals and all that. You can't have any type of conversation to repair things. And when you're going, look, whether it's family, anybody. And when their attitude is, well, if it's that big of a problem, why don't you just go somewhere else? That is another narcissistic fucking move. I don't know how many times I've shown videos on that stuff, because once I learned from my doctors, my attorneys, and all of them of what I had been going through and what I had experienced, because my attorneys have had to defend people in my shoes before. They recognize reactive abuse, and they recognize when somebody's actually abusing somebody mentally and emotionally to the point that they break down and they have an aggressive and even violent reaction to that abuse. I went through a lot of it for a long time, and not just from one person. That one person got multiple people involved, which got more people involved. My kids and so forth. So in their head, it's like, why do we keep going around this circle, keep talking about it? And it's like, because you want to allow it to go beyond this certain point in the conversation. So every time you cut it off, what do you do when you go to watch, if you have a favorite TV show, and let's say you hadn't watched the last season for a while, and you need to get kind of re-caught up. You need to go through that, whether you're watching a recap or you're watching the old episode from the previous season, so that you get reminded of what you watched before you carry on to the new shit. So every time you cut things off too early, and you're not getting past that point, you're going to constantly go through a recap. You're going to constantly go through that bullshit of repeating what was already said so that it can be continued. Because you can't cut something off, wait 2 months, and expect somebody to just remember everything that was being talked about, because they were too busy being offended, angry, and showing their guilt. So, as is, they're not arguing with somebody who is a neurotypical, who generally, for most part, a lot of them should be able to communicate really well and be able to take, whether it's shit they don't like hearing or not, they generally can take it a lot better than most people who are neurodiverse, who do tend to be self-conscious because they don't want to upset anyone. So then every time they speak up and they upset someone, that's something they have to think about every fucking time now that they go to talk to someone. Am I going to really upset this person because I'm really trying to communicate here and trying to solve this or ask this or whatever the situation is? But if they're always being met with aggression, they're going to not only get to a point where they're going to start responding back with aggression, because then it's going to get to the point there's nothing. You just crack. It's like, what the fuck? You start messing with their heads that way. As is, most neurotypicals do not do well and cannot function well when they're met with somebody who argues that way. Where immediately they not only become standoffish, they immediately start to deflect, they start to dismiss, they start to find ways to gaslight, they start to pull whataboutisms, they start to tell you that you're being dumb, they start to tell you that maybe you should just find someone else, they start to tell you all this shit, but they're not even thinking about what they're actually saying. They're basically telling you in so many words to go fuck yourself. It doesn't matter what you're saying. You can say this as many times as you want. I'm not going to change. I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to do who I want. It doesn't matter what you say or do. I'm going to lie to your face. I'm going to fucking keep using you, and I'm going to keep fucking manipulating you and keep making you believe that I'm going to be a certain way just by telling you, because I expect you to just take my words. I will do certain things here and there for you to help out once in a while to try and, what's called breadcrumb. I want to prove to you that I'm really in all for this, but I'm only going to do that when I realize that you're starting to slip away, or you're starting to get aggravated, or you might actually really genuinely need help, and I just want to be nice for once, and it's a rarity. So then when it happens, somebody who's in that type of situation generally does not know how to respond to that. So when you're talking about someone who's neurodiverse, who already has trouble recognizing whether somebody's being genuine or not, and you can't just take their fucking word anymore, you don't know if that act was actually genuine or if that act was just a form of manipulation to gain your trust again, to start sucking you back in. See, some people, if they paid attention more to not just vids, but actually paid attention to things that I had been reading, things that I had been sharing with them, expressing them like, look, this is what's been going on. Can we, trying to get across them, this is what's been going on. It needs to stop. I know I have my issues, my faults, and my fucking... Definitely I've got some fucking traits that I picked up over the last few years being in this non-stop fucking defense mode. And whether they like hearing that I'm afraid of them or not, why would you not be afraid of somebody who has no problems fucking with your head? Why would you not be afraid of somebody who has no problems lying to have you thrown in jail more than once? Why would you not be afraid of somebody who has no problems intentionally planning to cheat on you and then act on it and then act as if it was no big deal, until they realized that the person that they cheated on you with was using them too? So then they turn around, they go on to the next person, the next person, the next person, but you're not supposed to be afraid that they're not going to fucking hurt you. Because they, at your expense, by their bullshit gaslighting, their constant arguing, their constant fucking dismissing and everything, so that they can get these fucking negative reactions to get you to fucking crack. And when you're somebody on spectrum, it's really fucking easy to do. They start to turn into kind of a professional cook. They don't even have to try to crack an egg. They'll do it just by nature after a while, by muscle memory. They just fucking do it because they've done it so fucking much. And they don't realize that the person that they're dealing with is already has troubles. understanding the bullshit that they're, half the shit they're doing. Are they being real? Are they being genuine? Or are they being sarcastic and snide into my face? They're just smiling. Do they really like and appreciate that there's snow out here? Or did they like the video because they saw the part where I'm afraid that I'm going to get snowed in and stuck and they have me isolated out here? So which part is it? They don't like hearing this stuff, but their intent does not match the action or the words. And then when they want to do the whataboutisms, do the confusing shit, and it turns into a point where you can't they've already created so much chaos in your brain, you don't know how to respond to it anymore. So then it just turns into just pretty much a lot of arguing. Because then they've succeeded at what they want to do and what they wanted. And that was to deflect, to dismiss, to minimalize, and to discard the situation as quick as possible because they do not want to be the subject of the situation. It's okay for them to tell you to your face, oh yeah, I talked to my doctor about this stuff, but I can't talk to you about it even though it involves you, and even though I want to work things out with you, and I want to be able to have us to have back to a normal relationship to some degree and to get past this stuff, I'm not going to do actually any fucking effort to get past this stuff because all I did was fucking hurt you really bad. I kept stabbing you in the back. I kept fucking betraying you. I kept sleeping with one friend after another of yours since school and all this shit. Like, how many times do you have to keep fucking betraying somebody before you realize that, no, you need to talk. You need to quit arguing with people. You need to quit fucking with people's heads and emotions. The fact that you chose to cut people off that were actually decent friends to intentionally keep the one friend that is a shitty friend, to use the argument that that's the only friend you got, that's on you. Nobody forced you to cut off the other ones. Just like the house. The moment I hated my home, they started loving it. The moment they recognized that I disliked certain friends of theirs and liked other friends of theirs, they cut them off. But the only time they talk to those friends is loosely when they want to bitch about me or they need some sort of attention because their other girlfriend or boyfriend or whoever is not giving it at the moment. They don't bother putting effort into keeping a relationship. They want you to put that effort into that relationship. They want you to put the mental, emotional, financial, physical effort and intimate effort into that relationship while they're too busy putting the effort into other people. Whether it be other friendships or other relationships. Whether there's a long distance one and they're utilizing the person that's right there as sort of the fill-in. See, people like that don't like it when their intentions are questioned. But when you're dealing with somebody who does not fully understand people's intentions and can be naive about it, and they know it, it's sort of a take advantage tactic. And if they don't get their way, because I watched them do this when we were younger. I'm going to use this situation as an example. When we were younger, her mom walked in the room while we were in there sleeping. We used to sleep, and I'd go stay the night with her. Yeah, that's obviously how she ended up pregnant. Not that night, though. But when her mom walked in the room, she's in the middle of doing something, and her response to her mom was, "I'm just fixing the corner of the bed." And her mom started to rebuttal that, and how did she respond to her mom with that? She responded to her mom with aggression. "Oh, come on, Mom," and started getting angry with her. That's how she deflects what she's doing. She doesn't realize it's been around her long enough to see that's how she gets people to just either just drop it or feel like they're going crazy, or she just destroys everything right there. She don't care. She remembers that moment. I know she does. And I know she watches and she likes these vids, especially particularly the ones where I'm hurting. Yeah, I got to go into the desktop version of YouTube Studio, and yeah, I unsubscribed a couple people from my channel. And have them blocked, obviously. That person's not. Because I'm not playing the games, and I'm not dealing with God knows how many people that are even on here that are linked to that person that had some sort of relations with them, even if it was online. I don't know. I really don't, to be honest. You know, I know at least one of my kids and his wife watches this frequently. I know she watches this frequently. I know what of my friends watch this frequently. And yes, pacing is a form of stimming when it comes to people on spectrum. When they're dealing with anxiety and all, they start to pace. If you haven't noticed, a lot of times people like myself also don't generally like confrontation, but we will speak up and we will confront people if we have to, if something has become too excessive. Because a lot of times, most of us are taught that it's okay to defend yourself. And when somebody gets to a point of abusing you to the point that you have a breakdown, they're sort of responsible with what comes after that when they intentionally do that. It's no different than any of you out there. If you're being abused by somebody or being treated by somebody for a long period of time, eventually you're gonna react and snap to it. You're gonna get pissed off and you're gonna fucking react to it. Now, whether or not you're smarter than I am and know to leave that person before things persistently get worse because they don't have a bone in their body to actually, like, not just hear what's being said, but actually listen to what's being said and make proper adjustments. If they truly want what they say they want, they'll make the proper adjustments themselves and not force you to change for them. Because them forcing you to change is what broke you to begin with. They fell in love with you for a reason. So it's in these types of situations when dealing with somebody who has narcissistic traits or is a narcissist, if they're one of them, they fell in love with you because of how easy it was to manipulate you and get what they want from you. Even if you don't have anything, they still find something to get out of you. They will drain you until you have nothing. And then they wonder why you couldn't give more and wonder why you couldn't get further in life or why you couldn't progress in certain areas of life. And it's because you always had somebody there draining you. Whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, something. And a lot of you women out there, and I will say this a lot because I do feel that a lot of women do understand this. Because a lot of men do deal with this. I just feel like more women tend to deal with it more. Because a lot of them tend to be the ones at home raising kids, doing the cooking and taking care of the home. They're going through such a massive burnout between physical and mental and emotional burnout. Eventually they pop. Eventually they snap. When they're trying to deal with the situation that keeps persisting. Now, unlike another parent out there that I know of who eventually snapped and used hangers on their children, I never went to that level. So they themselves, if they're watching this, should understand what I'm talking about when a situation pushes you to a certain point that you snap. I just never would use a weapon on someone. And I would never go to that extent, especially on a child. Most of the time, that's why I end up walking away. And a lot of times, too, people who are neurodiverse, when they're trying to deal with a conflict or a situation, they tend to when things start to get heated, they tend to try to leave the room or go another direction because they don't want it to get worse. Yet then you have it at the point where they hit a certain point and it's like it's like when some of them break to the point where they end up striking people. For some, it takes a lot. See, I had someone sit back and go, tonight try to make me think that I was always this big, mean, abusive monster. But it was like, if I was the person you said I was, my wife would have put me in jail already. I would have been in jail then. Said my ex Kimberly or my ex Angela, they would have put me in jail if I was that person. So I was never that person. Why did I get left every time? It all involved money. Where my ex Kimberly was concerned, I want to say it was more along the lines of drugs. I actually don't hold any grudges on any of them. I have my faults in the situations and stuff like that. When it comes to being at times they're being a bit argumentative. With Kim, her and I got to arguing a lot because she started being shady and started cheating. And then when I found out that she introduced me to my pimp, or my pimp, her pimp, my pimp. And I didn't even know it until later. I think my current narc needs to understand, like, the shit she's pulled is things that almost all of my exes have pulled. I may have been able to forgive them, but they didn't pull all the shit at once, like what everybody did. I forgive my current ex, or whatever, my narc. I forgive her, but when she keeps going, I love you, but then tells me I'm dumb, I want to be with you, but then tells me, why don't you go find someone else? Tells me she wants better communication type stuff, so when I try to communicate, I'm pretty much blamed for being nothing but a problem and just wanting to fight all the time. She gets angry when I've made it very clear to her I'm afraid of her. I have fear of her. And she don't like that, but it's like she doesn't want, because she's so damn ignorant of her own shit. And even when she knows what she's doing, and she knows what she's doing is harmful, she seems to think that the things that she does can just be magically forgotten about. And that the pain and the damages that was done is just magically going away because she demands it. You know how many years I had to listen to her cry and complain about what her ex-husband did to her after that divorce? It went on for years. To the point that she started projecting his shit onto me. And that was when she stayed that got so badly, I was literally able to call out what she was going to do 2 weeks before she did it. And I actually show that in one of my previous vids, which is, if it's not unlisted, it's private. I showed that to my attorneys and them. Yeah, they saw it and I'm like, what the fuck? Because it was exactly what happened. Verbatim what happened. And when they saw that his name was being put into all the court documents right with my name, because they were taking that as, that was my other alias. I was like, that's not me. I've never gone by that. That's not me. It took my attorneys to get basically get the courts to understand that's not me. It wasn't me. It was never me. I was never that guy. Because she projected her shit so badly onto me. The way she had no problems looking me dead in the eye while she lied to the judge right to their face, to have me thrown in jail more than once. And they wonder why I'm afraid of them. Because they still have no remorse for that. They still try to justify their actions by how I respond to their abuse. By how I respond to their neglect. By how I respond to all this shit. And when I try to communicate, I'm made to feel like that all I'm doing is just there to cause a problem and fight, when that's not even it. So nothing ever actually gets dealt with. Figured, I've got dishes here. The water was super hot a little bit ago, and it's still hot, but I'm not going to burn myself. But I don't know how to take people genuine. It's like when you want, like, all they have to do is take 10 minutes, and I know they won't unless their job has them do it, is to see what happens to people like myself when being betrayed. When people hurt them and abuse them. To see how they not only react, but what the after effects are. How do they end up coping with a lot of this stuff? And really what they're doing, what happens is things get worse and harder for them, to the point, that's one of the leading reasons why most people on Spectrum, their lives are cut short, because they're, who do they got to turn to? A lot of them end up turning to suicide. That's the number one cause of death for people who have ASD. Because the people around them, their friends, their family, all that stuff, usually end up either abandoning them or making them feel like they're too much, they're not good enough, they'll never amount up to anything, they're a failure. Anytime they try to deal with anything, they're made out to be the problem, they're made out to be crazy. And yet they're already going through a bunch of hell as is, dealing with just the social structure of being in a neurotypical world, where most people, when they see somebody who's being direct and forward about what they communicate, and they immediately want to apply it as being aggressive and abusive. How many people have watched somebody speak about something passionately and the person was not being aggressive or abusive, but could easily be confused as that? It happens every time. If you're genuinely passionate about something, it's be like that. For example, when Christ went into the temple and started flipping all the tables and basically cursing everybody in the church who was doing business and all that shit in there, do you think he was, he was being abusive? He was definitely being aggressive and passionate about what he was seeing and what he was saying. And people don't seem to recognize any of that anymore. And when people on Spectrum are having to not just read on this shit and pay closer attention to people and have to people watch, it's bad when they start to pick up on it faster than some neurotypicals out there. The other part that we tend to have a problem with is we hyperfocus. And because of that hyperfocus, and because we process things differently, where some things might take a couple weeks, take a couple months to process, we get punished for that shit. Are you still talking about that? You still hung up on it? And when we hyperfocus, it makes it that much fucking harder to let something go, because we're needing to get it out. We're needing to either get it out or get it done. It depends on what we're doing. If we're working on something or talking about something, or we're trying to cope with something, trying to understand something, anything, we'll end up hyper-focusing on things. And when it comes to tragedies, issues like that, it's a big one. And when you're dealing with every fucking person in your family, every fucking friend at some point and treats you like fucking shit, you don't fucking forget that shit. You don't fucking let it go right away. And even if you have, you always know that you dealt with that experience, and that's going to carry with you for the rest of your life as a learning experience, in the sense of, okay, I have to avoid taking part in this or saying this or doing that so that this doesn't happen, or this person doesn't do this to me, or that person doesn't do that to me. So you are constantly taking mental checks going, well, I can't ask this question, or I can't say this to this person, because if I do that, I'm going to get accused of being abusive, because I can't communicate with them the things that I'm struggling with, where they're concerned, so that there could be a fucking resolve. That's why at times you see me, even in this, I bounce around, and at times I have trouble staying focused on topic, because sometimes my brain is either ahead of what I'm saying, and then there's other times my brain's trying to catch up to what I'm saying. It just depends on the situation and the subject, really. But I'm tired of the fact that I'm constantly being accused of being a monster. I'm always being accused of just trying to cause a problem. And it's like, it gets to a point you don't feel like anything you do is good enough. And when they address you and go, well, the way your mom and dad's marriage worked out is your dad just shut the fuck up and just let your mom abuse him. And to me, that was a hint to me that that's what they wanted me to do. That they wanted me to just let them treat me the way that they have all those years, like the way my mother treated my dad. Only for her health to go downhill and all, because she was too busy focusing on everyone else, instead of focusing on her own marriage, her own family, as in her kids and us. But after a while, it was just me. But yeah, she's too busy worrying about what everybody else was saying or doing, too worried about trying to impress a friend, or too worried about trying to get approval of a sister or a sibling, you know, one of her siblings, just something. Constantly trying to get approvals. Trying to be accepted by people who had already taken the time to destroy her family. When she herself, in a lot of ways, by placing my brother in a situation that he was in, and then when him and my brother tried to bring it up and talk about it, she denied it because those were her friends. I know somebody who does that, who would take the word of her friend before her own spouse or her own children. Let alone significant other, you know, I mean, if you really want to be with somebody that long, you would start actually not dismissing what they have to say and actually taking it serious. Not make them feel like that their word doesn't matter to you at all. I paid a lot of attention to how things went between my mom and dad. And the thing that I don't even think my brothers actually understand, because I know my older brother, he was still, I want to say he was still in the Navy at the time. And my other brother was still in prison at the time, I want to say, or it was just shortly after. I want to say it was just, yeah, it was before that. My other brother was still in prison, but I got to watch why my mom ended up on disability herself. And kind of how she handled everything. I'm not trying to put my mom down. I'm just talking about what happened. And it's not really, you know, when people hear it, it's like, are you serious? It's really why she got on? It's like, yeah. My mom was able to get on disability because somebody at work who was a fucking complete asshole and made a really fucked up comment, made this comment in a question format that of, you must have been a whore when you were in school. Because of whatever it was my mom and her co-workers that she was friends with were talking about, and this other guy at her work made that comment to her. Yes, it was really fucked up and wrong. Yet because of that, that's what made her not ever work again. And over time, she stopped taking care of herself. So when the doctors would tell her, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to start exercising more, she'd get my dad to get this little pedal thing that she could use while sitting at her desk, because the only thing that she put so much effort into was not just her paranormal stuff, but she had obsessed over the owner of Cascade Geographic Society, even though he was already married. She was obsessing over it. There was times there I couldn't tell if she wasn't like in love with that guy or not. There was times I couldn't tell. And I know others couldn't tell either because of how she acted. And then the way she would start getting as angry as she would and all that stuff. It was just like, yeah. What my narc doesn't realize is she acts that way at times with certain people and certain things, and doesn't realize what she's doing is she's causing me to associate how she acts with how my mother acted in similar situations with other people. Didn't realize that when you promise that you never cheat on somebody like their wife and leave them in a hospital, that when you intentionally plan to cheat on them and then you try to leave them in a fucking jail cell, that's no different. It's really no different. That's the same abuse. It's the same traumas. I mean, I guess to some case, though, the one part that I can give credit is in that situation. In that situation, I can at least remember everything what happened, which actually isn't necessarily good because of the fact that I got to go sit and stay in a place multiple times for things I did not do and proved my innocence, only to the point that the courts and them had to pay me back. I'm still healing from a lot of things. And when one person single-handedly went through and did damn near everything that everybody has ever done in my life that abused the shit out of me. Excuse me. Mainly my mom and my ex-wife. And one of my other exes. She literally did what all these people did to me, and her attitude has been, just deal with it. It's forgive and forget. You know, you don't need to talk about it. You don't need to bring it up. I told you I'm sorry. That's good enough. Look, I'm trying to make an effort with you. You know, I'm trying to spend time with you and talk to you. But when I spend time with you, I spend 90% of my time laying in bed in my PJs smoking pot. And if I get up to go do anything else, either we're going to the store because we need groceries or something like that, you know, that type of thing. Or I might go to your place to go get laundry done so you can also cook me dinner, and then I fucking leave you right after I eat my food and get my clothes done. I might stay the night, I might not, but if you really want to spend a bunch of time with me, you have to come to me. If you want to fucking actually talk to me on a regular basis, you have to come to me. If you want to make things right, you want to repair things, and start having a better relationship, you have to come to me. That's somebody who's telling me that they're making an effort on a relationship. When I watch them make more effort to go cheat than they did to keep their own relationship. Like, do you not understand how much money it cost in fuel to drive 600 miles round trip, spend a couple weeks plotting and planning to cheat, when the man who has wanted to be with you and has wanted you to prioritize him in your life and to actually make him feel like he's worth something to you instead of just being a tool, you couldn't go 5-6 feet, but you could go 600 miles. And then you get really angry because you find out that they used you the way you used the man that was sitting right there, me. You get hurt and upset because that person literally used you and treated you the way you treated me, and probably within a couple months, that type of thing. The other problem, though, is I can't help but have this itch in the back of my head, is that they still have something going on, and it's long distance. The man was supposed to focus on repairing his marriage because he was being toxic and all this shit. I saw his posts before I ended up removing him from my friends list, because he made the mistake of sending me a friend's request a long time ago. And so when I saw that, yeah, I went ahead and accepted, and I got to see everything. She doesn't realize that I know that those two have been having relations since 2019. He sent her and I both the same friends request at the same time. And if you don't delete them or anything like that, those friends requests stay sitting there until you delete your account. They stay there. You can deactivate your account, do all that stuff. They will still be there. And so I got to see everything, damn near, you know, everything. And it was just within a month from her cheating to him sitting there going, I need to work things out. I'm sorry. I've been toxic. That type of shit. That man was literally doing what my narc was doing. The only difference between the two is if that was actually genuine, if he was actually doing that, and they, by, you know, theory or possibility, isn't nothing still going on, he at least had the balls to realize that he needed to focus on his marriage and make things right, not keep fucking blaming his wife for why he decided to go cheat on his wife. Why he was getting into a divorce, because most likely he had been cheating on her throughout the marriage. I'm sorry, but, you know, somebody's going, yeah, I'm getting a divorce. But then you find out from other people that you're all friends with, because we all went to school together. So it's kind of hard not to learn these things. That they're still married. That man, at least I can give the respects that he at least had the balls that if that's the case, he actually genuinely went back to try to work things out with his wife, make it right, and put focus on his wife and family, not go focus on other women and other friends. And I think maybe somebody needs to take at least a lesson from that guy, since he was so important, and that it's continued to cause conflict. Although I still can't help but feel and notice that there isn't possibly a new person. I don't know. My trust has been so fucking demolished. And because they don't even fucking take the time to even understand that even somebody on spectrum, when you destroy their trust, it's actually even harder to get it back. Because we've gone through so much abuse already from people. throughout our lives, from our own family, our own friends, our own classmates, all this shit. To have somebody like that abuse you the same way that your family did and others, when you gave them all your trust, all your loyalty, everything, no matter how much at times they might have pissed you off and did all this shit, you still trusted them, even when they went around people you didn't like, that you trusted them, that they went and fucking do that shit behind your back, that they would actually defend you if somebody spoke bad about you instead of joining in or being the leader of it. That's what I had to deal with. Somebody that had no problems joining in. And the way I knew about it is because I got to listen to somebody's dad talk shit to me while she stood there and held the phone with a smile, and I had to listen to it. See, if I was the person that I kept getting accused of being, I would have already went off on her dad. But I actually have more respect for her dad than she even realizes. I'm not the one who had to lie to my parents about the person I'm with to get them to pay me to go move out and to another home because I was cheating and you were trying to hide that. And the fact that your mother helped you do that shows what kind of mom you had. The fact your dad helped you cheat on your relationship the way you did and leave, I'm surprised he didn't think about what he went through, but I just don't think he cares because his head was so full of shit, filled with shit between my narc and my own child, his grandchild. People can, if you can get into unlisted vids, especially some of the more recent ones, you'll see the link to my Facebook page showing everything. The abuse I went through with my kids, everything. The fucking shit I went through with her, all of it. It's their public. And it's like, I don't know how to explain things to people anymore, and I don't really want to keep going over it. That's why a lot of the vids went private or unlisted. Some of the main ones are definitely still unlisted, down to somebody's different confessions. See, they get angry. When I had friends in the past, they'd started to cross certain boundaries where I was concerned. And I had enough respect for the boundaries of our relationship that I would never allow that person to cross those boundaries, and make clear to them that they had to respect those boundaries. But when in the moment they actually crossed those boundaries, like really crossed them, that was the moment I'd start cutting them off. And the reason why I dealt with things that way is because it's like, look, you're getting a chance to still be friends with me, as long as this doesn't keep going on. You can't fucking keep doing that. I'm with somebody. No, that type of thing. And eventually I ended up severing those ties and relations. And it was under two reasons. One, respect to my relationship. Two, she knew that those people were having problems respecting boundaries and wouldn't respect boundaries the way they should. And she'd have a big tissy fit. But the people that I kept addressing, going, look, these people that you're being friends with, you need to stop being friends with. Like this guy Phil, like I showed in the previous vid. I'll put it this way. None of my friends went as far as to contacting her to ask her if they could sleep with me, like her friends did. And I had them threaten me over it. Like threatening me wanting to fucking have relations with her. All kinds of shit. I'd deal with people threatening me. Even after she cheated, I still had to deal with people coming and getting messages from random people that I don't know who the fuck they are, threatening my life because of her. And her attitude is, I'll play stupid and I'll act like I don't know who these people are, but she doesn't even want to take in the situation of her mouth, and even our child's mouth is what did that. When she admitted that she was getting people's attention and seeking attention from other people at my expense by going around and basically getting people convinced that I was this big abusive monster. And that's how she's getting some of these men to do what they were doing. Her reaction to that, her little silence for a moment, and then some of the other shit that she said at different times when it was brought up, she can't deny it at this point. Some of it was already recorded and is already on here, and she already got to see and listen to it if she was actually capable to sit and listen to herself. I think if somebody like that sat and listened to themselves, they'd realize how actually fucking cruel they are. And how careless they've been. When you're with somebody and you tell somebody, I love you, I want to be with you, I want to marry you, I want to do this, you're my soulmate, but then you tell them that you want to just worry about yourself. Maybe that you're dumb. Go worry, go find somebody else. And they do this back and forth, but then they expect you to just keep dealing with this back and forth as if it's not going to fuck with your head. And I just, like I told her before, I think the only way she'd be happy is if I ended up dead. And just like some of the vids where I address some of my fears, those are the vids that she likes. People don't realize, and I'm speaking from my own experience, especially now I can look back on everything and go, I didn't just magically become autistic. I've been this way my whole life. I've been high spectrum my whole life. And so I see back on all my reactions to different things, how I handle different situations. And when I look at different things, go, that was wrong. I have to correct that. When they want to sit back and try to go, bring up certain things and be like, have you listened to yourself and thought about what kind of hypocrite you are? Has she sat back and thought about when she's watching that, what is that, Love After Lockup? She can sit back and watch that and go, yeah, I think that guy got his shit together, that type of thing. How is it that those guys can actually reflect on what they did was wrong and she can respect that, but she can't do that with me? That I can't somehow use my actions, my choices in life, good and bad, as a way to fucking help other people. And what she doesn't realize, that it's not just hurt people that are hurting people, it's hurt people that help people. You have a choice. And if you choose to ignore what you went through and choose to ignore learning about it, you're just going to be one of those people who repeat the abuse that you went through onto somebody else. Instead of being somebody who takes the time to not just learn about it and try to work towards healing on it and understanding it and doing this shit. You can't correct something if you keep trying to avoid it. You can't change a situation if you keep trying to dismiss it, deflect it, and manipulate it. You can't sit there and fix anything or communicate or expect anybody to communicate with you if you call them dumb or what they're saying is dumb, which is the same as calling them dumb, telling them to just go somewhere else after they tell you they love you. Or they start pulling the whatabouts. Now, if you look up whataboutism, that is literally a narcissistic tactic. And in fact, when you actually look on the history of it, it was something that Nazis actually used a lot. And it was used as a way to cause confusion and deflection, to take the focus off the core subject and putting it onto something else. And then in the process, when it creates confusion, it causes an argument, so then there's no actual resolution to the problem. All they did was create a bigger problem. And so when some people want to sit back and go, try to accuse you sound like a doctor, maybe if they took the time and actually learned about this shit, because they're the ones who took psychology classes, they're the ones who are working in a field, dealing with people on spectrum, who are dealing with abusive fuckers like I have. Who are dealing with those same abusive situations in one form or another, and they're dealing with that same shit. I already know they won't treat their clients the way they've treated me. I already know that. I do a lot of these vids and all that stuff so that I can actually kind of let a lot of this stuff out. And if they choose to watch and listen and actually try to actually genuinely take the time to understand what's being said, they have the opportunity to, because any other time I've tried to speak about this stuff to them, I've been pretty much made out anything but human. And that all I ever do is cause problems. Thanks for watching.